and gentlemen, I'm John Griffiths, the founder of Verus Property Investments, and you're listening to The Entrepreneur's Journal, and this is our fourth episode. Now, what are we talking about today? What I wanted to delve into is a idea that I've had in my mind a lot recently, and it's a reoccurring idea through history as well. I would say it's not exactly an original idea of my own, but the way that I go about visualizing it is very much my own perception of it. Now, what is this mysterious thing I am speaking of? That is the labyrinth of our psyche. See, we often assume that we know ourselves truly, but that is not the case. See, we spend a good portion of our starting life more aligned to that of an animal. We're more of an animal kind of human being rather than a conscious human being, and for that reason we find that we are more susceptible to external influences. So as a child, you're very much indoctrinated into beliefs and behaviours of what you see around you in your environment. But once you become an adult, you're able to become self-aware, and through your awareness of yourself, you are able to then look over your past and determine whether these ideas or values or beliefs that you hold dear to yourself are actually your own, or something you've just absorbed from someone else, and they may not necessarily be positive for yourself. So what I preach is that when you finally become an adult and you're able to manifest self-awareness, that the first job on your to-do list should be to delve within your psyche landscape. This is kind of a mental visualization of your psychology in its entirety. The way that appears to me is either as a typical stone labyrinth or a forest covered in a heavy, dense fog. Now, within your mental landscape there are inner demons as such, and that is the reason why we even have that phrase of your inner demons. These are manifestations of negative complexes that have developed by consequence of perhaps a decision that you made earlier on in your life, or a experience that you've had that may have been influenced by other individuals. One particular inner demon that we all have to contend with is the issue of ignorance, because the very definition of that word is that you do not know whether you're being ignorant or not. You're not able to actually know if you're being ignorant or not, because if you assume that you're not being ignorant, that could very well be you being ignorant. So this is a perpetual problem that you cannot solve, but you have to contend with, because, well, if you are being ignorant, you ought to become aware of that and deal with that, so you're in a more healthier sort of mindset and able to actually act in the world in a proper manner with success. Now, how do we go about delving within our mental landscape? I see that there are doorways, if you like, that will lead you into your psyche, and it will lead you further down that rabbit hole, and from there you end up confronting your inner demons, or these negative complexes that you've developed over your lifetime. Through confronting them and resolving them, you're able to fix that. The way I visualize that within this labyrinth metaphor, if you like, is by learning the roots of the labyrinth. You learn which ways to go, left or right. If you go left, you go down a dark route, a route that is not beneficial to your own life or existence, or may actually be beneficial to you but harmful to people around you, and so in the long run not beneficial to you, in fact detrimental. So you're trying to map out this landscape, this mental landscape, and through mapping it out you're able to understand why your mind takes you down particular routes, and from there you're able to resolve that pivot and be able to come to a healthy conclusion. So how do we go about finding these doorways? Well, the easiest ones, and this is actually aligned with the Stress Awareness Month, which is April. Stresses, they're the perfect gateway into them, because stresses are very in your face and harder to not notice. And in fact, I would also add to that, any excesses of your behavior or lack of behavior, which is just the reverse of excess in all honesty, they can be good indicators of something that's deeply rooted in your psychology, within your mental landscape. So through identifying what your stresses are and what you're particularly sensitive to, you can then begin to meditate, if you like, on that particular thought, that particular stressor, and that will lead you down a road, a chain of thoughts, and the further you follow that chain of thoughts, the more you are uncovering of your mental landscape. And after repeating this multiple times, you will eventually find the solution. So coming back to the problem of ignorance, this was something very much on my mind for a good chunk of time, and it was really driving me up the wall. I was kind of thinking, well, how can I know if I'm being ignorant or not, if the very definition of the word means that I wouldn't be aware of it in the first place? So it's not a problem you can actually fix, it's a permanent problem. So if it's a permanent problem, what could be the solution to it? Because it will always be a particular issue here and there. What I came to eventually, after much time thinking about it, is, well, really it comes down to your ability to accept when you have been ignorant, and to remain open-minded because you understand that there is a good possibility or slim possibility that you may in fact be ignorant about particular things. So maybe you consider yourself expert on a particular topic, and for that very reason you have walls up to any opposing views and ideas. Normally that leads to tension with these other people because you are so firmly disagreeing with them. You're not able to really appreciate them as a human being. Instead, you are more concerned with winning this fight of who is right. Now, a healthy debate is perfectly fine, but arguing to win is not beneficial, because winning in that sense doesn't lead to progress. It just leads to reaffirming your ego. So that led me to understanding that you need to remain open-minded to other conflicting views, and even when you still aren't convinced by someone that disagrees with you, there's no reason to value them any less, or to not listen to them in the first place. But then you may be open-minded to other people, but that doesn't mean they will be open-minded to the fact that you may be ignorant, or they may be ignorant. So what's the solution to that problem? Well, it all boils down to your character. You can't change the way people will interact with you just because you believe that this process of being open-minded, because of our innate potential of being ignorant, you still can't just change them for that reason. So it boils down to allowing other people to judge you, to hold dear those views, their own ignorance, if that's the way they would like to go, and be accepting of that, but also not be put off by the fact that they will still remain themselves and be argumentative with you, because they fail to understand the fact that the problem of ignorance is one that every single human being has to deal with and cannot avoid. So, falling back onto these stresses, your excesses of human behavior, you are able to identify particular doorways into this mental landscape, and from there you can follow a long chain of thoughts, working out and mapping the routes. You might not find the right path for a very long time, but with a open-minded mentality, a persistence about you, you will be able to decipher that route with any luck and come to a conclusion of that chain of thoughts, which is both beneficial to you and congruent with the bigger picture, if you like. Now, this is quite a abstract conversation, I would say. Might be a wee bit difficult to wrap your head around. I'm not the very best at explaining this. However, it's something I'm progressively toying with my own mind and improving upon, and it's actually one big topic that I'm going to be discussing in the book that I'm currently writing, with a section dedicated to the need of deciphering this labyrinth of your mind, this mental landscape, and learning the routes and being able to navigate those waters. Because if you don't know your psychology will still influence your life. It will still impact you. So it's absolutely pivotal that we delve within our mental landscape, make sense of it as best as we can, so that we are able to progress through life with far more success and effectiveness. Now, thank you. I appreciate you listening to this. And I'm John Griffiths, the founder of Verus Property Investments. And I'm wishing you all the best and have a lovely day.